Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omar Khalid. But today is the 24th of December 2024. The last few days before the year comes to an end. But of course the stories remain there, and every day new stories up front that we'll discuss with you during the course of our shows rather. Today we'll try to kind of move forward but also rewind a little bit into 2024. We'll be talking about two important aspects of 2024, that is terrorism in Pakistan as well as the economic situation and the indicators, and how the government has achieved these indicators during this current year, and of course the fiscal year that began on the 1st of October 2024 as well. What are the expectations, what is the outlook for 2025 as well, is what we will be highlighting during the course of the show on both the sectors, as whether it be terrorism or whether it be economy. So we'll begin our first segment, ladies and gentlemen, with the situation as far as terrorism in Pakistan is concerned. When it comes to the year 2024, there has been an increase, a surge in terrorist activities in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well as in Balochistan. Most of the casualties have been from our armed forces. Nevertheless, if we just recount the last incident that happened, was on the 20th of December, where in South Waziristan at least 16 security personnel embraced shahadat while countering the nefarious elements in that area. And this adds to so many different such incidents that have been happening. But of course the resolve of our armed forces is there, and they are here to thwart all such incidents that try to destabilize our country. And we know where all of these nefarious elements come from. The majority of them are from Afghanistan and enter through the porous border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and that is how they continue to destabilize or try to destabilize Pakistan. We in our first segment have been joined by two guests. One guest will be discussing a bit later in the show, but of course online we've been joined by Brigadier retired Farooq Hameed, who is a defense analyst. We'll be discussing with him the different aspects of the kinetic and non-kinetic measures that have been taken as far as 2024 is concerned. We'll be talking about terrorism, the why such increase in the numbers, who is behind it. We know it's Afghanistan, and not Afghanistan, but of course the terrorist elements that are present there, that emanate from there, that infiltrate Pakistan through the Afghan soil. And that is how this whole increase or surge in such incidents happen in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan. The fact also remains that there have been many important efforts that have been made by our armed forces and our government as well to thwart such incidents. Azme-e-Istehkam is one such campaign that was that began earlier this year. We've been joined by Brigadier retired Farooq Hameed Saab, defense analyst. Thank you very much, Brigadier Saab, to have joined us. Brigadier Saab, 2024 marked by a resurgence in terrorism, particularly by TTP, upsurge in attacks resulting in high losses amongst the security personnel belonging to the forces as well as the police as well. The latest incident happened on the 20th of December, in which 16 security personnel embraced shahadat. What kinetic actions or non-kinetic actions do you feel have been taken so far this year, and now that this year is coming to an end, what should be the resolve as far as the actions that should be taken in the year to come to thwart such elements?
Bismillah ar-Rahman, thank you very much for inviting me to your program. Yes, I agree that the last, not only 2024, but the last 2 years or so have been very tough. We've experienced wave after wave of terrorism. Earlier on, it used to be maybe it's limited to KP, but now Balochistan is also there. So both KP and Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan are now our frontline states, provinces fighting the terrorist waves. And this year, of course, I agree, it has been much more. And it has actually caused the lot of, it's been a very upsetting situation. But the armed forces of Pakistan have, till today, they're fighting them, they're giving sacrifices, and they're doing their best to destroy their hideouts, their bases, through intelligence-based operations, and even otherwise, when they're attacked, and then they fight back and eliminate them. And in the process, obviously, hundreds and hundreds of terrorists, they've been killed. And in the process, of course, a lot many of our security forces, whether they're from the Frontier Corps or from the Pakistan Army, from the levies, paramilitary forces, yes, they have experienced a large number of casualties, something which was not there or seen earlier. And I think that there has to be. It is not just the armed forces of Pakistan who should be responsible, the Pakistan Army or the Rangers or the Frontier Corps, to take on the terrorist groups, which somehow, despite the double fencing that we've had during General Bajwa's time of all along the Pak-Afghan border, and those 300 plus forts, surveillance forts that were built up, especially with electronic surveillance, despite those, and with drone surveillance also, and of course other types of surveillance activity. But still the terrorists have managed to slip from crossing across the Pak-Afghan border.
Brigadier Sahab, that is what causes the issue of the surge in terrorist attacks, and of course this happens through the Afghan border. This happens from Afghanistan into Pakistan. Kindly stay online with us. We've also been joined by Abdullah Khan, who is the Managing Director of PICSS. Abdullah Khan Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. I'll begin with facts and figures that your organization has given. Following a 2-month decline in militant activities, Pakistan has experienced 34% increase in anti-state violence last month. This is data that was unveiled by your organization, that is PICSS. It says a total of 63 militant attacks in November, 83 fatalities, 37 security personnel, 33 civilians, 89 individuals injured, 53 civilians, 36 security forces personnel in those. Pakistani security forces also responded with precision, eliminating at least 59 militants. 18 suspected militants were apprehended. 34% surge from October in the month of November, 63% rise in fatalities, 89% increase in number of injured persons during the month of November. Also the first 11 months, I mean, I'm just getting all this data together so that I can discuss further with you. First 11 months, January to November 2023, reflected 599 militant attacks, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the most affected province. 2024, Balochistan enters the fray as well. Why this escalation in 2024 compared to 2023, and why this escalation in these last months?
Thank you, Barsab, for having me in your show. It's always a pleasure to be with you and discussing all these critical issues, which I wish we will not be discussing very soon due to the sacrifices of our forces. The surge which we have seen this year is actually continuation of the surge which had started in 2020 when the reunification of TTP happened in August 2020, when different factions of TTP merged together to form a united TTP once again. And in 2021, Afghan Taliban took over Afghanistan, and that gave further boost to the surge which had started in 2020, because Afghan Taliban provided safe havens, free movement to the TTP leadership, and they are hiding, and not hiding actually, they are residing there, not hiding, because openly meeting with people, coordinating attacks and everything, just like they are using Afghanistan as a base camp for their terrorist activities in Pakistan, and that impunity provided them a lot of space which they are using against Pakistan. So that surge, which it is continuation of the past going on, and we are witnessing that they are trying to actually get some sort of a land where they can relocate their people which they had gone away, because they feel that a time will come that in Afghanistan the situation may come to a point where the Afghan leaders ask them to go back. So they are striving actually hard, which they are unable to get that, but their onslaught is basically aimed at to getting a piece of land.
Where?
In Farmer Fata, somewhere,
But how can we allow that to happen?
We cannot allow, but they believe that they can get it through their constant attacks. And to be honest, at certain pockets they are able to make their presence more pronounced than in the past, especially at the night in some areas. So they are trying to hard, but our forces are responding very, very effectively, and they are not letting them to dominate any specific area. So that is the tussle which is going on. It is a do or die for the TTP. So they are, and the smaller groups like Gul Bahadur group and Lashkar-e-Islam, they all want to remain relevant, and this is a do and die, because if they are unable to make a point here, eventually their utility in Afghanistan and their utility for those powers who are the actual handler behind them, for them they will be useless. So a proxy, TTP is basically a proxy which is manipulating religion for this nefarious design. They want to keep their relevance for the actual perpetrators of terrorism in Pakistan.
I understand where you get to. Brigadier Saab, coming to you, our Chief of the Army Staff, while interacting with troops in Wanap, is pledged to pursue Fitna al-Khawarij, that is the name that has been given to the TTP, till its elimination. According to the Interior Ministry, in the first 10 months of this very year, 948 out of 1,566 terrorist incidents reportedly occurred in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa that resulted in 583 deaths, a total of 924 martyrdoms. 476 security personnel lost their lives before the end of the year, according to PICSS as well. 856 attacks, this is what they claim. Azm-e-Istehkam, sir, was a program that began earlier this year. How do you view the progress as far as Azm-e-Istehkam is concerned? And when our Chief of the Army Staff says that he's going to pursue the fitna till its elimination, do you feel this is a resolve that is going to continue till the very last fitna remains in Pakistan?
Azm-e-Istehkam was initially intended, and we also thought that this is going to be a military operation, but then it was after all this political opposition, the government declared that this is not going to be a military operation, and it is an overall, it's a combination, it's an integration of so many courses, open strategies available to the government, like intelligence, federal and provincial coordination, obviously some military operations also, but not in the way as we thought that we saw Zarbi Azab or operations in Sawat in the past. So Azm-e-Istehkam is, in a very broad sense, it talks about containing terrorism through political means, and I've said through many other means. What I am very annoyed personally, and I'm sure people of Pakistan are also very upset, that because of the continued polarization between the frontline province that is fighting, that is facing the brunt of the terrorism wave, that is the KP. Balochistan, the things are different because they're the provincial government and we don't have that kind of strained relation with the federal government. But yes, because of the unique strains in the relations between the KP government and the federal government, we are not seeing a joint strategy, although we are seeing that the Apex Committee meetings are being held in Peshawar, and most recently 3-4 days ago, co-chaired by both the KP Chief Minister, of course, all the relevant people in the KP government, and the Corps Commander of Peshawar, and of course other military officials. So till that is okay, it's understandable, and I think there's a growing concern that this misunderstanding and this lack of coordination and this the environmental confrontation, political confrontation, that has to come down. So therefore, if we have to contain terrorism in KP in particular, we've got to improve the political climate over there. We've got to improve the very hardline position that is being taken by the local people over there, especially after 26th November. So there has to be a grand reconciliation. Remember, after the Afghan Taliban government came over, I think they've been the biggest deceivers, and they have betrayed Pakistan. They've betrayed all that we've done for them in the past so many decades by letting the terrorist groups based in Afghanistan access to all those weapons worth billions of dollars, left behind by the United States. And now sometimes one feels that perhaps the United States did this by design, because they knew that after their exit, if Pakistan has to be kept destabilized, whether it's KP or Balochistan, then these weapons, the state-of-the-art, the most modern weapons, they would logically fall into the hands of these terrorist groups with the support of the Indians, with the active involvement of the Indian intelligence and security agencies, who are now well placed in Afghanistan. And that would be helpful in the grand designs, the external forces, the international establishment of destabilizing Pakistan via KP and Balochistan, and hence they destabilize CPEC also. So we have to keep in mind the root causes. If the Afghan Taliban government had been honest to the way and responded the way what all we have done for Afghanistan, I think today the situation would have been different. And I also agree that in 2021, had we not released, gone into negotiations, although I did support those negotiations between the TTP and the political government, obviously there was the security element factor also with the TTP and some many top people.
I understand, Brigadier Saab, where you're going to, and of course the root causes, as you very ably said, need to be eliminated and need to be tackled with on a very urgent basis. Abdullah Saab, there's one thing that is very worrisome, and that is the emerging nexus between Talibanism and sectarianism. You know, we've seen sectarian violence in the past in different areas, Quram for example. This has all become more complex with the return of the Taliban rule in Afghanistan and the TTP's resurgence. Are the Fitna al-Khawarij promoting such sectarianism in your point of view?
Before I respond to your question, but let me, because the data we present, it gives an impression that the militants are taking more lives, but there is another fact, which is that our forces have killed more than 100 terrorists in November. This is the highest number of terrorists killed in a single month since 2017. So, and this year the highest number of militants have been killed than any other year during past 5 years. So this is, I wanted to say that this is another side of the picture where
that also needs to be presented.
Yes, our security forces are achieving.
Looking at counter-terrorism, Abdullah Khan Sahab, do you feel that we maybe need to revisit our counter-terrorism strategy, maybe add certain sections to it, looking at the whole environment of terrorism in Pakistan in 2024?
I agree with you, and next year we have to think that our kinetic alone approach could not produce the results we were expecting during the last 2 years. So we have to be more robust, more comprehensive. Although the Azm-e-Istehkam, the government had said that it will be a comprehensive strategy, as Brigadier Saab has highlighted, but I also agree with that Azm-e-Istehkam could not take off the way it should have been. So we have to see out of the box what other measures beside the kinetic, and within kinetic we should think more about just IBOs. We should think about the decapitation of the leadership. Although this month also another achievement in the summer was of the security forces, that the Pakistani security forces eliminated one of the top most leader of TTP, who was their member of their Shura, Taha Sawati. He was killed by security forces. Another TTP top commander, Shahid Umar Bajodi, was assassinated inside Afghanistan. But that sort of things need to be done more than IBOs against the sleeper cells or local cells. Leadership decapitation is always a very good strategy that can disrupt their activities. And as I had said in your previous show when I was here, that Pakistan should also strike where the actual mobilizers or handlers are there. They should also feel the heat. So we should use the kinetic to beyond just within our boundary, because actual perpetrators are outside the country, and we have to think beyond that. So and beside that, I agree with you that there should be a comprehensive counter radicalization or counter terrorism policy, which should be youth mobilization, community engagement, peace building, economic opportunities. That should be a whole of a nation approach, because
holistic approach basically,
because whole nation is actually facing this brunt of terrorism. So we should mobilize all the segments of society to counter it, and the best place is I think the youth can play, because youth is the most vulnerable. The youth are actually becoming victim of terrorism. Either way, either they are being killed or they are influenced by these radical ideologies and they join militant groups. In both ways, we have to take care of our youth. Basically, our prime focus of the government, all its initiatives should be on focus on the youth to actually fight this.
So maybe in 2025 we will see the many more changes as far as the way our government and our forces will move forward as far as thwarting all such enemy designs are concerned. And of course, as you yourself have said, the number of militants who have been killed this year alone is far surpasses the number of militants that have been killed in the last 5 years. So I think this is an indication of the way our forces or our defense mechanism is working in order to eliminate all such designs that are working against our country. Thank you very much, Abdullah Khan Sahab, to have come all the way to the studios, to have joined us, and of course to have discussed 2024 as far as terrorism is concerned. Let's come to our second segment, and of course before that I would also like to thank Brigadier Farooq Hameed Sahab, our defense analyst, who also joined us online. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns Pakistan in 2024 and economy. Many economic indicators that were found to be positive this year because of the working of the government together, and of course the SIFC also that played a very important role. And then the situation that was there before is slowly and steadily stabilizing, as far as the economy is concerned, whether it be the KSE 100 index that is seeing benchmarks that we had never ever seen in the history of Pakistan, whether it be other important indicators, whether it be inflation that is in single digits as we speak, whether it be other important factors that contribute to the macroeconomic stability of Pakistan. The fact is that 2024 seems to be or is in fact an important year as far as Pakistan's economic stabilization is concerned. We've been joined by two guests to discuss that one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Shoaib Janjua Sahab. He's a financial securities expert. Thank you very much, Shoaib Sahab, to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Dr. Usman Chohan, who's an advisor on economy with PICSS, and of course, very dear political economist who has been there for us whenever there is anything important to discuss. Thank you very much, Usman. I'll begin with you, Usman. Usman, the government has implemented several relief measures in the year 2024. Regular meetings of National Price Monitoring Committee, Competition Commission of Pakistan taking measures to control cartelization and undue profiteering, Ministry of National Food Security and Research, improving the supply chain of essential food items, declining electricity charges and motor fuel prices, enhanced allocations of BISP welfare schemes, 10% reduction in Pakistan Railways fares, and this multi-pronged strategy to combat inflation that has now come in the single digits. How do you see all these measures taken by the government? Are we moving, in your point of view, in the right direction? Does this achievement and more that we'll discuss a bit further in the show boding well for the country's economic stability? Is it setting the stage for a stabilized and sustained growth and development?
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure. Yes, you're right that these are the signs of a turnaround, and these are the sorts of measures that help to reinforce the trajectory towards positive growth. We've had a tough 5 years as a global economic community, particularly the developing world, as we've talked about extensively. Pakistan was in a difficult situation, just like many other countries. But what you see now is the green shoots, solid green shoots, as in symbols of improvement and a reversal of that negative trajectory that have to be reinforced with important measures. The measures that you have just listed, vis-a-vis transport, vis-a-vis food security, these all matter in making sure that the benefits and dividends of tough economic measures actually pass down to the people, because what the government has sought to do is, while it adheres to a strict IMF guided regime for reinforcing its economic fundamentals. It also does care that the people do not bear an undue burden. It has been hard for the public, but that is common across many countries. So if you have these kinds of measures, which you have defined as relief measures, it's absolutely right. They are part of the balance that the government seeks in order to make sure that the public does participate in that austerity effort while at the same time not having an undue pressure. And so I believe that these are the sorts of measures that actually bring a ground reality in terms of meaningful change. You have to have these targeted measures to improve specific areas where specific bottlenecks exist. Once these specific bottlenecks are addressed, you then see the austerity program, which has been top down by nature always, come into a grassroots level. These are precisely the sorts of things that one would need to see translation of a broader strategic concept of economic reform brought down to actual measures that are then more robust in the longer term.
All right. Shoaib Janjua Saab,
Sir.
KSC 100 index.
Sir.
Benchmarks we have never ever seen in Pakistan's history. And still there was a little decline, then it has jumped back up. More than 100,000. We never in our wildest of dreams had thought that the KSC 100 index would reach, or PSX would reach 100,000. It has gone even beyond 115,000, now 112,000. Then the current account balance in the July-November fiscal year 2025 posted a surplus of $0.94 billion against a deficit of $1.6 billion in the same period last year. Current account deficit narrowed down a little bit before, but now it's back. Trade deficit July-November fiscal year 2025, because 1st of October is the fiscal year 2025, increased by 9.6%. Workers' remittances July to November increased by 33.6%. FDI during July-November increased by 31.3%. And of course, Pakistan also attracted $230 million in foreign investment in May this year in treasury bills, the highest inflow in 4 years. Combined together, how do you view 2024?
Sir, thank you very much for taking me on the air. It has been always a pleasure. If you ask me that whenever we're going to write a signature story for stock market about, especially about 2024, we would say that this was the year that this was the stock market has actually bulls have really commanded the stock market, but the bulls have never come at their own. But there were certain fundamental changes within the economy, as highlighted by our earlier friend, that those structural changes, they were very painful, but once they started, their impact started reaching to the public, and especially when we had got the note from the IMF, and the inflation numbers and the interest rate, they all become so conducive that the stock market went upward and started defying the gravity. So we would say that this whole bull's run had a reason to be there.
All right. So, I mean, but I think a benchmark has been set as far as 2024 is concerned. And this benchmark, I don't know whether 2025 will be able to break it or not. But nevertheless, this is going to be an interesting precedent that we'll see next year, whether it be followed by much better, indicators or not. This is something that I'll discuss a bit later. But Usman, coming to you, the GDP growth for fiscal year 2024 is estimated at 2.52%. In July to November, incorporation of companies registered with the SECP increased by 13.1%. FBR tax collection July to November increased by 23.3%. The KSC 100 index, we've talked about it. This and more indicators that I've also talked to Shoaib about, the KSC 100 index, the current account deficit reducing, workers' remittances increasing, FDI increasing, and of course foreign investment in T-bills that we've never seen in the last 4 years. What is your impression, if I were to ask you what 2024 meant to you economically?
2024 meant to me that there is a concrete reversal in the midst of a very difficult global decade, the toughest one so far in the last 50 years for the world economy. So 2024 marks that turnaround. You had the COVID and post-COVID events, very difficult. Now these indicators all signify that there is something different in the air. This, I hope, is long lasting. I'm not speaking from a domestic perspective, but also internationally. I hope it's long lasting because, as you know, we are about to witness some tremendous changes in the global economy driven by a new US administration. This administration is coming with a totally different agenda for the world economy. It may involve far more unilateralism. It may even involve perhaps bullying of countries, the rejection of globalization, the creation of barriers to trade, protectionism. These are the sorts of things that, as countries have just emerged from a very difficult half decade, are probably not ready for. And to think through what might happen versus what will actually happen is extremely difficult. So I would like for these changes being wrought on the global economy, and then at the domestic level, all of the positive things that you have mentioned. The stock market is just one of them, but the inflation, the growth, the employment, all these things that are the registration of companies, even that is an interesting indicator that these are the marks of robust, internally driven growth. As we switch from the austerity program back to the austerity paradigm, back to a growth paradigm, and that GDP therefore increases with time, that all of these exogenous forces that are also likely to come about, for which the magnitude is not yet known, don't throw a wrench too great in the system. So what I am saying is that things look good now, and I would like this to continue, but we just don't know what the world would look like for the second half of this decade.
That's true, that's true. Well, you know, there's a lot of question marks regarding what 2025 has in store, and of course later years as well, the next 3 or 4 years. Let's see, I mean, keeping our fingers crossed. Shoaib Saab, the OICCI's Waves 26 Business Confidence Survey for October and November 2024 reveals a substantial improvement in the overall business sentiment in Pakistan. The Business Confidence Index rose by 9 percentage points. The State Bank of Pakistan in December, we all know, reduced its key policy rate by 200 basis points to 13%. This marks the 5th consecutive cut since June 2024. Of course, this is to stimulate economic growth amid easing inflation as well. Does this, in your point of view, reaffirm a positive outlook for Pakistan's economy in 2024, and also maybe for the fiscal year 2025 that continues in 2025, driven by better economic growth, stable exchange rate, easing inflation, and of course confidence, reinforcing confidence in the country's business environment? We begin therein on the business sentiment as well. How do you foresee that now that 2024 is ending?
Sir, if we take the last 25th survey, then the business confidence, only the 34% of the respondents were then having a very bullish or an optimistic look about the future economy.
All right.
But right now, this the latest survey that shows that 43%. So there's almost 11% increase of those respondents were positive that the worst time is over and good times are coming. As we know, the economic structural changes, they are a bit difficult on the surface, but they are little bit time consuming. But once they start, they are implemented and their fruits start reaping, they start trickling down to the retail levels as well, to the individual levels as well. So right now the business confidence with interest rates very low, historic low in Pakistan, we understand that as the credit will the financial industry will start dispersing credit to the small and medium sized businesses, then the economic outlook would further improve, and we are expecting 2.5 and 2.8 GDP growth for the next year, but probably the number would come eventually higher than this, what is right now, what the analysts or the multilaterals are anticipating about us. So we would see that in the times to come, the economic, all these factors would actually start yielding the positive results, and economic outlook would definitely improve.
Usman, some of the key milestones, let's talk about that as well, because I want to remain optimistic, positive, at least today, because I've seen so many good indicators that, I need to highlight that for our audience and discuss it with you. Pakistan's business confidence and investment climate, how some measures have improved it. European Parliament extends Pakistan's GSP plus status until 2027. The SCO summit that takes place in this year between the 15th to the 16th October 2024, and wherein Pakistan's role in regional cooperation is highlighted, and of course the number of countries that were there were proof of that. After a 4-year suspension, Usman, PIA is set to resume flights to Europe starting with Paris on the 10th of January 2025. This also will facilitate trade and tourism. Does the coming year, in your point of view, sound more promising with milestones such as these?
It certainly does if you look at it endogenously. These are the first steps towards a broader, widespread recovery. If we look purely at the endogenous model, the signs that you have provided are unassailable proof that things are better. No one should be a pessimist just for the sake of it, and I fully endorse that. You are, mashallah, a person of a very resilient and optimistic temperament. I think we can all draw upon this example, and I don't want to spread any unnecessary negativity, unnecessary being the operative word. We need to have a recognition of the merits of the tough choices that had to be made, and contrast how difficult the beginning of this year was with how things have been in the last quarter of the year. Things were very, very hard, and it wasn't easy to make the choices that were made. And nobody was anticipating that things might turn around at a certain schedule, one that ended up being even faster than the mean consensus forecast was. So these things stand on their own merit. When you take tough choices, tough decisions in the national interest, you may have to take some pain, but you will see the dividends of that in the longer run. Some of those dividends have appeared faster than one expected. The stock market is just a minor example of that, but we have to keep in mind that the road to progress is never an easy one. It is always an ongoing struggle. Even the countries that you might have considered exemplary economically have faced hurdles, more acute ones in recent times. So it is always an ongoing struggle where everybody has to be on the same page. And on that journey, if you get some good signs, take the time to enjoy them and celebrate them. And I think that is the spirit of our discussion today.
Exactly, and that should be the spirit, inshallah, in 2025 as well, if things go the way they are moving forward. Coming to you, Shoaib Saab, let's talk a little bit about the business climate as well. When you look at the credit ratings that have been given, Fitch upgrades Pakistan's credit rating to CCC+ in 2024. Moody's revises Pakistan's credit ratings to CAA2 with a positive outlook, which highlights confidence in Pakistan's fiscal reforms and economic resilience. Fiscal reforms and economic resilience seem to be two key words when it comes to these credit ratings. Do you feel that these reforms and resilience are indication for a more robust business climate for Pakistan?
Well, if you sum up Pakistan's last 2 decades economic performance, we have very consistent bouts of boom and bust, right? Right, but probably right now the current government's focus has shifted from a long-term strategic view of economic management rather than making a short-term decision. So whatever we saw in the last 18 months, the certain steps taken by the government which were very painful, and it was the rising food prices and the energy and the petrol prices, all of them were very difficult for the common people. But these were the challenging tasks that the government uptake in order to revive the things and move the things in the right direction. So basically right now even the Fitch and those credit rating agencies, at that time they downgraded us because they had a doubt that we will not be having the capacity to fulfill our obligations. But right now that cloud of uncertainty has actually shed, is over, and upcoming we would see that things will actually go better, and we will have the better outcomes and better results. Economically we will perform far more better. So there is nothing to worry that our economy has a very sound fundamentals. We needed the direction, but that direction is right here. Stay.
That direction is right here, it's here to stay. But the fact is also that I love to highlight the facts and figures that we have with us for 2024, because these are the facts and figures and these need to be highlighted as much as possible. Usman, last question as far as you are concerned. International agreements, investments, the IMF. Let's talk about the 9th month agreement, then the new agreement in September 2024, the 7 billion funding agreement to further stabilize Pakistan's economy. You add to that the Saudi investment in Pakistan. Well, in October this very year, Saudi and Pakistani businessmen signed 27 MOUs worth $2 billion that focus on industry, technology, agriculture and energy. Then BYD's expansion into Pakistan. In August this year, Chinese electric vehicle, the BYD announced plans to establish a car production plant in Pakistan and also launched 3 models through a partnership with a company in Pakistan. Do you feel developments such as these reflect a dynamic social environment, economic environment in Pakistan with both challenges and positive strides that influence business and investor confidence during this period?
Yes, there are 2 elements to this, and I agree on both fronts. The first is the dynamism of an economic nature. I think that the fact that deal makers are coming here is a good sign. The need for investment here is necessary not just for us, but for the investors from abroad as well. Look at the long-term demographic profile of the countries we're talking about. If Europe, the United States, the Gulf region, and China are not investing in South Asian countries such as Pakistan, then they're not getting the maximum return. The future belongs to South Asia and Africa. This is where the markets of the future lie. This is where the labor pools of the future lie. And yes, they have not achieved their maximum potential yet, but they're all on their way. So the fact that delegations come here will probably not just be for our benefit, but also theirs. It's a two-way street, and we should keep that pragmatism as well, that if those countries aren't investing here, then what are they doing? This is the future. The second is on the technological front, and the landscape of technology in Pakistan is changing dramatically in the first quarter of the 21st century, which is now coming to its close with this month, and we're entering the second quarter of the 21st century. The technological shifts will be extremely important in terms of solarization, electric vehicles, many things that one wishes had existed in the past because they're suited to our geography, suited to our consumption needs. Thankfully, they are arriving one after the other, and we should ride this wave out through the second quarter of the 21st century, having electric vehicles, solar, and all these things that have more sustainability, better suited for us, and just drives our economy forward. These are the things that will characterize this next quarter of our century.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Usman Chohan, to have joined us online. Thank you so very much to Shoaib Janjua, financial securities expert, to have joined us. It's so interesting, you know, when we discuss with 2 specialists on where our economy has gone in 2024 and what should we look forward to in 2025. But, you know, I need to highlight the positive aspects. I need to also see that we look forward to a very, very positive 2025 when it comes to our economy. Let's keep our fingers crossed and let's keep working in the right direction. Yes. Thank you very much to have joined us. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's show. Before I leave, I'd just like to wish in advance a Merry Christmas to all of the Christian community in Pakistan and across the world who are celebrating. Have a very merry day ahead, and of course the evening that is going to come in a few hours as well for all of you Christians in Pakistan and in the world. Stay tuned for more on PT World, and we'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news stories and segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.